Today I'm going to try to do something a little bit different. I'm going to try to speak a little bit softer and closer and clearer. To try to experiment with different sounds. To change the pace of my voice. Now I'm going to be using an old tool of mine. A very favorite book. Something I think we all can learn a great deal from. Someone wiser than us. Someone older than we are. One of the ancients, and that would be, of course, that would be Aesop. I've read these stories again and again and again, and maybe I could tell you them by heart, but I think it might be a wee bit more effective if I told them from the book, by the book. Do you know any of these stories? Do they still have meaning today? Are they still relevant, or do things lose meaning over time? Now, these stories have morals, like many, many fables, but they're more grains of wisdom. They're wiser. They're not, it doesn't seem that they're trying to lure you into a false idea of right and wrong and good and bad, like a lot of literature for children does, but more like a little flower, but more like they're telling you ways to improve your outlook on the world. Sorry, I'm just finding some dried flowers. Collect them and dry them out. Hydrangea comes from the root hydro from water, because they get very damp, but now the water's gone. So all that's left is the shell, a very beautiful blue shell. A larger one too. Nothing can last forever, but the hydrangea is a very special flower. Because it's beautiful in its many, many, many different forms. For example, in the fall it turns brown, but the brown leaves are still beautiful and evocative. But there's nothing like when it's in fresh and bloom and scented. Even though we always have the memory with us. Dried out memory. Now it's time for the story. Have you seen this one before? I think I've shown it to you. It's a famous crow with its paw. And the clever fox. The fox features prominently. In many cultures, the fox is a symbol of sly wisdom. Well, not wisdom exactly, but it's very knowing. One creature you don't see is the owl, because it used to be that the owl was a symbol of stupidity. Believe it or not. It wasn't thought to know a great deal. There's so many things here. scary for children. This one I like. And we'll all know the application to this one. A milkmaid was on her way to market, carrying a pail of milk on the top of her head. As she walked along the road in the early morning, she began to turn over in her mind what would she do with the money she would receive for the milk. I shall buy some hens from a neighbor, said she to herself, and they will lay eggs every day, which I will sell to the pastor's wife. And with the egg money, I'll buy myself a new frock and ribbon. Green they should be, for green becomes my complexion best. And in this lovely green gown I will go to the fair. All the young men will strive to have me for a partner. I shall pretend I do not care for them in the least. When they become too insistent, I shall disdainfully toss my head like this. And as the milkmaid spoke, she tossed her head back, and down came the pail of milk, spilling all over the ground. And so, all of her imaginary happiness vanished, and nothing was left but an empty pail and the promise of a scolding when she returned home. And I think we've all heard the phrase, don't count your chickens before they're hatched. And that's the root of that phrase. For many years, the mice have been living in constant dread of their enemy, the cat. It was decided to call a meeting to determine the best plans of handling the situation. Many ideas were discussed and rejected. At last, a very young mouse got up. I propose, said he, looking very important, that a bell be hung around the cat's neck. Then whenever the cat approaches, we shall always have notice of her presence, and so be able to escape. The young mouse sat down amidst tremendous applause. The suggestion was put to a motion and passed almost unanimously. But just then Old Mouse, who had sat silent all the while, rose to his feet and said, my friends, it takes a young mouse to think of a plan so ingenious and yet so simple. With a bell about the cat's neck to warn us, we shall all be safe. I have put one brief question to put to the supporters of this plan. Which one of you is going to bell the cat? And the application of that story is that it is one thing to propose and another to put into execution. Now, here's another one we know very well. And I think you'll recognize the application, or a very famous phrase comes from the story. See if you can guess what it is. The Fox and the Grapes. Mr. Fox was just about famished and thirsty too, when he stole into a vineyard where the sun-ripened grapes were hanging up on a trellis in a tempting show, but too high for him to reach. He took a run and a jump, snapping at the nearest bunch, but missed. Again and again he jumped, only to miss the luscious prize. At last, worn out with his efforts, he retreated, muttering, Well, I never really wanted those grapes anyway. I am sure they are sour, and perhaps wormy in the bargain. The moral of that story is any fool can despise what he cannot get. And the phrase, what might the phrase be? The phrase is sour grapes. So if you can't get the grapes, you call them sour. But I think it's actually kind of a clever thing to do, despise what you can't have. Because then you'll experience greater happiness. That's another good one. It's taking a while, isn't it? Don't worry, I'll find one. I'll find one fast. Ooh. There's a tortoise and the hare, but I think you know. We all know that one a little too well. The lion and the dolphin. I don't actually know this one, so I'm reading it with you. The king of beasts was pasting majestically along the shore of the sea one day, when he spied a dolphin basking on the surface of the water. "Hello there, friend dolphin," roared the lion. "This is a fortunate meeting indeed. I have long wanted to suggest to you that you and I form an alliance, as I am the king of the beasts, and you are the king of the fishes." Okay, dolphins aren't really fishes, but we'll just let that fact slide. Just let that slide for now. What is more natural than we should be strong friends and powerful allies? There is much to what you say, said the dolphin. Not long afterwards, the lion again came to the seashore, where he was challenged by a wild bull. The fight was not going so well for the lion, so he called upon the dolphin for his promised support. The latter, though ready and willing to come to the aid of his ally, found himself unable to come out of the sea to join the battle. After the wild bull had been put to flight, the lion upbraided the dolphin. "You are a fine ally," said the lion. "I could have been killed, and you never turned a fin to help me." "Do not blame me," said the dolphin in reply, "but blame nature, which has made me powerful in the sea, but altogether helpless on land." And the moral is, or not moral, I'm sorry, the application. This is not a morality play. In choosing allies, look to their power as well as their will to help you. So this is kind of a bit of martial strategy for people who are in more competitive fields. Perhaps that's helpful. This is another one that's a little bit dark. It's about wisdom. The frogs had always lived a happy life in the marshes. They had jumped and splashed about without a care in the world. Yet some of them were not satisfied with their easygoing life. They thought they should have a king to rule over them and watch over their morals. So they decided to send a petition to Jupiter asking him to appoint a king. Jupiter was amused by the frog's plea. Good-naturedly, he threw down a log in the lake, which landed with such a splash it sent all the frogs scampering for safety. But after a while, when one venturesome frog saw the log lay still, he encouraged his friends to approach the fallen master. In no time, all the frogs, growing bolder and bolder, swarmed over the log Jupiter had sent and treated it with the greatest contempt. Dissatisfied with so tame a ruler, they petitioned Jupiter a second time, saying, "We want a real king who will really rule over us." Jupiter by this time has lost some of his good nature and was tired of the frogs complaining. He sent them a stork who proceeded to gobble up the frogs right and left. After a few days, the survivors sent Mercury with a private message to Jupiter, beseeching them to take pity on them once more. "Tell them," said Jupiter coldly, "that this is their own doing. They wanted a king. Now they have to make the best of what they asked for." And the moral is very, very simple. It's let well enough alone, which in some cases is applicable, in others perhaps not. Let's continue on. And the fox, a lot of foxes. Trying to find one that's not too sad. The Fox and the Stork. This one is about hospitality, something we all should know about. One day a fox invited a stork to have dinner with him, and the stork accepted. The fox, who enjoyed some reputation as a practical joker, provided nothing for dinner but some thin soup in a shallow dish. This the fox lapped up very readily, while the stork, unable to gain a mouthful with her long bill, was as hungry at the end of the dinner as she was when she began. As they were parting, the fox professed his regret that his guest had eaten so sparingly and feared that the dish was not seasoned to her satisfaction. The stork replied, "Please do not apologize, friend fox. I have had the most interesting evening. Will you not do me the honor 1 week hence to return the visit and dine with me?" True to his appointment, the fox arrived, and the stork ordered the dinner to be brought in. But when it was served up, the fox found to his dismay that it contained a very long-necked jar with a narrow mouth. The stork readily thrust her long bill into the jar and enjoyed her dinner, while the fox was obliged to content himself with licking the neck of the jar. As the fox made his adieus with as good of grace as he could muster, the stork said dryly, "I hope you do not accept an apology for the dinner. Expect an apology for the dinner." They say, "Many go out for wool and come home shorn." A little bit more. Just have to be patient while I find one. Patience, steady, easy. It happened in days of old that the lion fell in love with the beautiful daughter of a woodman, and one day he came to ask the maiden's hand in marriage. It was only natural that the woodman was not pleased with the lion's offer, and he declined the honor of so dangerous an alliance. Then the lion threatened the parents of the maiden with his royal displeasure. The poor father did not know what to do. Finally, he said, "We are greatly flattered by your proposal, but you see our daughter is a tender child, and her mother and I fear that in expressing your affection for her you may do her an injury. Would your majesty consent to having your claws removed and your teeth extracted before becoming a bridegroom?" So deeply was the lion in love but he permitted the operation to take place. But when he came again to the woodman's home to claim the maiden for his bride, the father, no longer afraid of the tamed and disarmed king of beasts, seized a stout club and drove the unhappy suitor from his door. So many animals. Well, this is a sweet one, an old favorite of mine. A lion was asleep in his den one day when a mischievous mouse, for no reason at all, ran across the outstretched paws and up the royal nose of the king of beasts, awakening him from his nap. The mighty beast clapped his paw upon the now thoroughly frightened little creature and would have made an end of him. "Please," squealed the mouse, "don't kill me. Forgive me this time, O king. Don't kill me, and I shall never forget it. A day may come, who knows, when I may do you a good turn to repay your kindness." The lion, smiling at his little prisoner's fright, and amused by the thought that so small a creature ever could be of assistance to the king of beasts, let him go. Not long afterward, the lion, while ranging the forest for his prey, was caught in the net which the hunters had set to catch him. He even let out a roar that echoed through the forest. Even the mouse heard it, and recognizing the voice of his former preserver and friend, ran to the spot where he lay tangled in the net of ropes. "Well, your majesty," said the mouse, "I know you did not believe me once when I said I would return a kindness, but here is my chance." Without further ado, he set to work to nibble with his sharp little teeth at the ropes that bound the lion. Soon the lion was able to crawl out of the hunter's snare and be free. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. And with that thought, I wish you a very good night.